Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Love Against the Throne. Episode 14. Chapter 67. Cassius's POV. I sat in the limo on edge. Ever since last night when Gemma told me that Jeremy had forcibly kissed her, I wanted to kill him. I was angry when she didn't have him locked up and only monitored. I realized she was concerned about her pup, but at this point, he was a danger. All day I felt her agitation and fear. It made it harder for me to do my job because all I felt was concern for my mate and unborn pups. She had just called me asking when I was going to be home, and I did not like the sound in her voice. She was missing and it was clear she feared for her safety. I was relieved that she was not alone though. I trusted my Delta and her brother to keep her safe. It still filled me with an uneasy feeling I did not like. "You are making me nuts, dude," Deke said to me as my leg shook. I had ordered Bruce to drive faster. I am the king. No kingdom cops would pull us over for speeding. I glanced at my beta and best friend. "I just have a bad feeling, Deke. Like something really bad is about to happen." He sighed. "She will be fine." I was mildly assured by Deke's words. But that didn't completely alleviate my nerves. "Leonora is on edge as well, Cassius," Enoch said in my head. He had been pacing and whining in my head for hours. The palace was in sight finally and my anxiety lessened slightly. Gemma's agitation had stopped and she felt calm. Maria told me she was working in the office with Ian and her pup nearby. Then that calm was broken when I felt her fear rise again. "Bruce! Step on it!" I yelled at my driver. We were on the palace grounds and the limo was already at top speed. "Cassius!" she screamed through our mind link as I felt pain. I yelled. "What's wrong, Cass?" Deke looked at me wide-eyed. "Gemma is in trouble," I blurted out. "Guards, find the queen now," I ordered through the mind link. The limo came to a screeching halt in front of the palace and I was out of the door with the warriors on my tail. I looked up and down the halls and heard her screaming. "Gemma! Where are you?" I was desperate. "The bathroom," she answered. I felt a burning sensation running through my body as I ran towards the bathroom. "She's been poisoned," Enoch whined. My chest hurt as I slammed the door open. Jeremy had her pinned to a wall and his lips were glued to hers. I saw red as I pulled of my mate. He flew across the room and slammed into the wall. Gemma slid to the floor with a pained look on her face. I saw bruises on her arms and neck. "Arrest him!" I bellowed to the guards. They quickly picked him up. He growled and snarled as they dragged him out of the room. "Gemma is mine!" he roared. It took everything I had to not go after him and just end his pathetic life. Then Gemma let out a scream and I was brought back to the reality of the whole situation. I immediately scooped her up and ran out of the bathroom and towards the hospital. Her violet eyes were full of pain. "The pups," she mumbled. Then the next word hit me hard. "Poison." I could see her fighting to stay conscious. "Hold on, Gemma." I felt tears in my eyes form as she screamed again. Her eyes looked into mine once more before she went limp in my arms. I crashed through the doors of the hospital and was ushered immediately down the hall. I set my mate on the bed and the doctors got to work. She was poisoned. I managed to get out as my tears fell. I didn't care if anyone says me cry. Do you know with what? Angela asked. I shook my head. No, Gemma began to convulse and scream on the bed and the doctors had to hold her down. Enoch! I called to my wolf. I was pushed out of the room. No! I shouted. Cassius, we need room to work, Angela said with her hand on my chest. I stood in the hall looking into the room. There was blood in Gemma's mouth as she was still convulsing and screaming. Once again I fell to my knees and prayed with everything that I had she would be all right. That our pups would be all right. Maria burst into the hospital. I looked up at her and she had a syringe in her hands. I found this in the bathroom. She looked down at my state and just went into the room. Gemma had stopped screaming but I felt the pain in her body still. Cassius, Enoch finally said to me. Leonora put Gemma in a coma. The poison in her system is meant to abort a pregnancy. Anger shot through my body as I stood up. I roared so loud the walls shook and I punched a hole in the walls. Cassius, Leonora is using all of her strength to keep the pups safe. I just leaned against the wall and sobbed. I sensed Maria and Deke standing beside me. You need to stay close to Gemma so we can use our strength to heal her and Leonora. Enoch explained. Leonora is asking for Leopold. He snarled slightly. Relax. Leopold is her twin's wolf. Ian ran down the hall towards us. Where is Gemma? He demanded. In there. I pointed to the room. That rat Jeremy poisoned her, Ian growled and punched the wall. I'll kill that. Get in line, I said to my brother-in-law. Leopold is going crazy in my head. I felt the burning and then pain. He said. I left my nephew with your parents and ran here. I need you to stay close, Ian. Leonora is asking for your wolf. Angela came out of the room and looked pale. She stood beside Maria. She's stable. We were able to figure out what was in the syringe Maria brought in. It was a combination of wolfsbane and nightshade. Nightshade can kill unborn babies. But it seems to have been kept from affecting her uterus. We administered the antidote. Her wolf is keeping the pups safe, I told the doctor. My wolf says Ian and I need to stay close to help her heal. Angela nodded, that sounds about right. I'll have her moved to a larger room so you two can remain by her side for as long as it takes. But I think she will be all right. I immediately wrapped my arms around the doctor. Cass, can you not crush my mate? Maria said next to me. I released Angela. Sorry, I mumbled. Angela squeezed my arm and smiled at Maria. It's all right, Cass. I am strong enough to endure a crushing hug by the king. She walked off issuing orders. Moments later nurses moved Gemma to a larger room. Ian and I walked into the room. Gemma looked pale and sickly hooked up to all of the machines. It made my heart wrench. Ian and I sat on either side of the bed. Maria and Deke filed in. I need to stay here to help heal her, I explained to them. I will keep things going in the office, Cass. Deke stepped forward. Me too, Maria joined in. Good, I know I can count on you too. Maria cleared her throat. What are you going to do to the culprit? I am going to rip him to pieces, I said to her. Can I get a piece of that action, Cass? Ian asked me. As soon as Gemma and the pups are in the clear. Jeremy is dead. In the meantime, be sure to pump that sack is full of wolfsbane and silver so he realizes the pain he caused my mate. I snarled at Maria. She sighed. It's your call, Cass. Ian, call your parents and tell them what is going on. He nodded and pulled out his phone. They'll need to tell Jeremy's parents too. He stood up and walked to the other side of the room. Gemma moaned and mumbled on the bed. I took off my shoes and lay beside her on the bed and gently pulled her into my arms. Careful to not disturb the wires and tubes. That seemed to stop the mumbling. I placed a hand on her belly in an attempt to sense my pups. We are going to get to work, Cass, Deke said to me, and then he and Maria left the room. Ian concluded the call and looked at me with mild disgust. Do you have to do that? I rolled my eyes at him. Ian, your sister is in a coma. I am not going to have sex with her. I just want to hold her. He sighed and sat beside the bed and placed a hand on her arm. My parents are on their way with Jeremy's parents. I am not changing my mind about killing Jeremy. I tried not to snarl. He nodded. I know. I want to kill him too, Cass. His voice sounded pained. We grew up together. He was supposed to help me lead my pack. I love him like a brother. But he shook his head as he looked at his sister. I should have seen the signs. I didn't think he would do something like this. I know he is in love with Gemma. But I didn't think he would try to hurt her like this. Ian stroked her arm. There was a soft knock on the door and my father poked his head into the room. Hey, he walked in and looked at Gemma with concern. How is she? Recovering, I replied to my father as he sat beside the bed. Gemma was snuggled into my chest and seemed to be at peace. I am thankful that my mate has such a strong wolf. Leonora kept the poison from affecting the pups. So now Ian and I are staying close so our wolves can heal them. My father sighed. I hope you kill that bastard. I know he is the father of Gemma's pup, but his actions are unforgivable. I know, Dad. I looked at Ian. Ian and I will execute him as soon as Gemma and the pups are in the clear. There will be no mercy. Good. Anyways, your mother is struggling to calm the pup down. Have her bring him here so he can see his mother, I told my father. Are you sure that's wise? Yes, Dad. I won't tell him that it was his father that did this. But Nick needs to see his mother. His presence may even help. My father's eyes glazed over for a moment. Your mother is on her way with the pup. There was silence as we all just sat there. Gemma was breathing steadily in my arms. Her color seemed to be returning to normal and her heart rate was steady. A few minutes later my mother walked into the room followed by Nick. Mommy! The pup cried out as my mother shushed him. Ian pulled the pup onto his lap. Mommy, what's wrong? Nick, your mommy is sleeping. She can't hear you. But she needs you close. I told the pup. Lasher said Daddy hurt her. I looked at him slightly wide-eyed. Lasher. My wolf. His wolf and Jeremy's wolf are still connected. My mother whispered to me. Of course. I looked at the poor pup. I didn't want to have to tell him. Yes, your daddy hurt your mommy. But mommy is going to be all right. Okay. What about daddy? I took a deep breath. Your daddy will have to be punished. I wasn't ready to tell him that I planned on killing Jeremy just yet. Nick rested his little chest against Ian's. My heart broke for the pup. He loved his father. But I would step up and be the father he needed. As far as I was concerned, Nick was now my pup. My son. He would never be treated any different than my biological pups. Is he going to die? Nick asked me as his little eyes filled up with tears. I looked at Gemma. I'm sorry, Nick. But yes. Nick buried his little face into Ian's chest and I heard him sob. Ian patted the pup's back. He sniffled and looked at me. I'm sorry Daddy was bad. There is nothing for you to be sorry about, Nick. Your daddy made his own decisions. The pup looked at me with his sad blue eyes. I love my daddy. I know you do. And I will never be angry at you for that. I tried to assure the pup. I heard someone else enter the room. Boy, there are a lot of people in here, Angela said as she walked in. She smiled at my parents and then looked at Gemma. I just need to check on her one more time before I go off duty. Dr. Roberts will be here and has been informed on everything. I loosened the hold on my mate and Angela checked her vitals. I think she is out of the woods. The doctor is correct. The poison is almost out of her system. She just needs rest now. Leopold and I still need to stay close. Enoch explained to me. My wolf agrees with you, Angie. He said that he and Leopold need to stay close though. Angela sighed. Okay. She looked at Nick. I can watch Nick for now if you want. She looked at the pup. Nick, do you want to come with me and you can play with Nico and watch cartoons? We'll get some chicky nuggets for dinner. Nick looked up at her sadly and shrugged. My daddy is going to die. It broke my heart to hear him say that. It's okay, Nick. Everything will be okay. Go with Angela and play with your friend. I promise your mother will be fine. A slight smile worked its way onto the pup's face. Go on, Nick. Ian tried encouraging his nephew. You'll have more fun with your friend. Nick nodded at Ian. Okay, Uncle Ian. He hopped off of Ian's lap and walked towards Angela. Thank you, Angie, I said to my friend. Have someone bring in a cot for Ian. Okay. She picked up Nick's hand. You are welcome, Cass. She smiled down at Nick and then led him out of the room. My parents stood up. We are going to go now, too. My father declared. Please call us immediately if anything changes. He placed his hand on my shoulder. Thanks, Dad. Mom, thank you. I said to them. My mother stepped forward and placed a kiss on my cheek. She laid her hand on Gemma's arm. I just know Gemma will be fine. She is a strong wolf. My mother smiled at me. She then linked arms with my father and they left the room. I looked at Ian. Are you in this for the long haul? I would die for my sister, Cass. I shook my head. You better not. I can't have her dying if you die. He laughed and rolled his eyes. I think you know what I mean. He leaned back in the chair he was sitting in and clasped Gemma's free hand and closed his eyes. My own eyes felt heavy as Enoch was using some of my strength to heal Gemma. Not that I minded. I would give it all to her and my children. Nothing mattered more to me. I fell into a comfortable sleep with my mate in my arms. Gemma's POV, all I felt was searing pain throughout my body. I was strongest around my uterus and I could feel the life of my pups waning until a cooling sensation made the pain stop. Then the most incredible comforting warmth spread throughout, cancelling out the pain. And then there was nothing but darkness. Warm and comforting darkness. I could hear muffled voices but could not discern where they came from. My eyes opened and I was in the field of daisies I often found myself in with my children. But they were nowhere to be found. All I saw was the lonely flowers swaying in the breeze, making me shiver. I heard a voice beckoning me away from the field and at first, I hesitated. A pair of wolves ran past me. One pure white and the other black as night. The white one looked back at me and urged me to follow. I ran after the yipping, happy creatures. I followed them through a green and lively forest into a large cave. The wolves lay upon the mossy ground of the cave. I lay beside them on the ground and fell asleep. Again darkness and I heard voices all around me. Becoming less muffled and more discernible. I was awakened by heavy panting. I was still in the cave with the wolves. The white wolf was laying on her side panting heavily. It was obvious she was in the late stages of labor. The black wolf lay beside her softly licking her muzzle. She whimpered as contractions racked her body with pain. I watched as she gave birth to 2 white pups. She lovingly licked them clean as the black male stood guard at the cave entrance. The pups squeaked and yipped as they were nursed by their white-furred mother. I heard a low growl and looked to the black male. Another black wolf with white streaks in its fur entered the cave. He lowered his head to the other black one and was allowed entrance. The solid black one trotted over to the white female and nuzzled her lovingly before laying beside her. I heard him sniffing the nursing pups and then giving them each a lick. He lay his head on the female's shoulder. The other male approached and nuzzled the white female before laying on her other side. I closed my eyes again and when I opened them again the pups had grown and were now wrestling on the floor of the cave while the black male stood over them. His tail wagging as he proudly watched the pups. They yipped and yelped. The scene flashed again and the pups had grown larger and were now venturing out of the cave. I followed them to the field of daisies where their black and white parents awaited them. The sun broke through the clouds and the parents ran to meet the pups and together the family played among the swaying flowers. The other black male joined them and the pups ran to him and nipped at his legs and jaws. I soon found myself among the playing wolves until I was seeing the scene through the eyes of the white female. "The pups are safe," a familiar female voice resounded in my head. "The poison is gone." The scene changed and I was alone in the field of daisies until I heard the laughter of children. I got up to follow the sound and there were my blonde-haired twins playing with their older brother. My gallant mate stood proudly watching them. His blue eyes sparkled as I walked out of the trees and he ran forward to embrace me. We kissed and my eyes closed. When I again opened them 3 more children were playing among the daisies. They all had brown hair like their father and turned to greet us. "Welcome back, Gemma. What do you think of our family?" His deep voice said to me as the children ran to us and engulfed us with hugs. We fell to the ground and everything went black. Darkness again took over. There was nothing and no one until I heard their voices again. They were clear and familiar. I recognized my parents talking to my mate. When is she going to wake up? I heard my mother's voice among the men. The doctors said soon. She is in the clear. The poison is gone and the pups are fine. Cassius explained over the hum of the machines. I wanted to open my eyes to tell them I was okay. I just miss seeing her beautiful eyes, my mother nearly sobbed. I so wanted to open my eyes to see her face. I wanted to reach out and grab her hand and feel the warmth of her embrace. I'm here, Mom, I whispered in my head. Leonora, I called to my wolf. Leonora, are we dead? No, dear. We are resting. It took a lot out of both of us to keep the poison away from the pups. We will awake in due time. She explained, and the voices faded into silence. I was alone again with only my thoughts. The events that lead up to this prison of the mind replayed in my head. The sting of the injection and then the burning. My pain screams as fear for the lives of my pups hung in the balance. Jeremy's sinister face hovering over me. The boy who had been my best friend for as long as I remembered had wrought this pain upon me. I saw our lives together flash through my mind. Playing together as pups through training together. The night of my 16th birthday when he took my virginity to the day I found out I was pregnant. The birth of our son as he stood beside me. Playing together as a family, and then the painful day he accepted and marked his mate. I had loved him. He loved me. We loved our son. I never would have guessed our life together would come to this. That he would attempt to kill my pups. He had gone down a dark path that there was no return from. His crimes were punishable by death. Through the darkness, I had heard Cassius, my brother, and my father discussing all of the ways they wanted to kill Jeremy. But through it all, I couldn't help but feel pity for him. Jeremy deserved death, but that's not what I wanted for him. My thoughts faded as the voices of my loved ones were present along with the beeping machines. I was trying in vain to open my eyes so I could return to them. Leonora, I want to wake up. I pleaded with my wolf. Then wake up. You have the power, Gemma. She replied. I tried with all my might to open my eyes and return to life. But it was like they were glued together. Warmth and sparks spread through my body. Come back to me, Gemma, Cassius's deep voice resounded in my heart and soul. We all miss you, love. I'm right here, Cassius. I tried to say to him only for it to echo in my head. Leonora. Tell Enoch I am fine. Tell Cassius I want to wake up. You have to do it yourself, Gemma. She said as the darkness faded and I was standing in the room I shared with Cassius. It was dark and cold. I felt the yearning to be with my family. I heard their voices outside the door. They were muddled together. Even my son's voice could be heard trying to get a word in edgewise. I tried walking towards the door only for it to move further away from me. Their voice became fainter as I fell to my knees wanting to get to them. You can do it, Gemma, Leonora encouraged me. Tears fell from my eyes as I felt hopeless. I could hear them calling to me. The ones I loved most calling for me to come back, and I was stuck crying on the floor. I'm sorry, Leonora. I am not strong enough to do this. I felt a cold nose nudge my arm and I opened my eyes to my white wolf. You are the strongest human I know, Gemma. Now get off the floor. Walk to the door and greet your family. They miss you. She growled lowly as she spoke. Slowly I got to my feet and felt faint and stumbled only to be caught by Leonora. I will be with you every step of the way, Gemma. I will never leave you. But you have to take the steps yourself. She backed away from me, making me stand tall on my own 2 feet. I looked towards the door and reached towards it. Taking a deep breath, I opened it and was engulfed with bright lights. My vision cleared and I was looking up at the ceiling of a room, and then I heard my mother crying. I squeezed the hand of the person holding mine. She's awake, my mother cried out, and her face entered my vision. Phil, Cassius. She's awake. I tried to get up and speak, but a strong hand held me down as his ocean blue eyes entered my sight. He looked gaunt and tired. Stubble grew thick from his normally clean-shaven face. Black circles surrounded his eyes. Hold tight, love. His voice was the most beautiful sound. I wanted to speak, but my mouth was full of tubes. I reached up to my throat. Cassius pulled my hand away as Angela came into view. Gemma, don't try to speak. I have to take the tubes out of your throat, she said to me. She had to push my family back so she could work. Take a deep breath. I did as she said and she pulled the tube out of my throat. I coughed as I took in deep breaths. Cassius placed a comforting hand on my chest. Easy, love. He spoke softly. My breathing eased and the bed was cranked up so I was in a sitting position. I looked around the room to see my parents, siblings, in-laws, and my son. They all looked at me through worn-out eyes. My eyes looked upward to the face of my beloved mate. Oh Gemma, you came back to us. I thought I had lost you. He bent down and pressed his lips to mine. The sparks from the contact. I reached up to run my hands through his hair as his hand traced down my cheeks. Tears fell from our eyes. Someone cleared their throat and Cassius pulled away, leaving me wanting more. My father stood there with arms folded and eyes narrowed at Cassius. He relaxed and smiled at me. Oh my Gemma, we were so worried about you. I opened my mouth to speak. How I rasped out through my dry throat. I glanced to the side as Cassius had picked up a cup and was offering me the straw. I drank and cold water relieved my burning throat and dry mouth. I smiled at my loving mate before looking around the room again. How long have I been out? A week, Cassius replied. A week. I felt fresh tears in my eyes. Cassius sat beside me again with his tightly grasping mine. He traced the back of his hand down my cheek. You were in a coma so your wolf could keep the poison from affecting our pups. I stayed at your side to lend Enoch's strength to keep you from perishing. I was here too, Gemma. My brother stepped forward with my son on his hip. Leopold couldn't bring himself to be away from Leonora. He set Nicky down and my pup ran over to Cassius's side. My father picked up my pup and set him on the bed. I hugged my son tight to my chest. I missed you, Mommy. I missed you too, Nicky. I missed everyone. I sobbed as Nicky lay his head against my chest. You had us all scared to death, Gemma. My mother said as she stood beside my father. But you refused to leave us. You are stubborn like that. I laughed. I guess. Angela walked back into the room and weaved through the crowd. Gemma should be fine to go home tomorrow, Cass. She said to my mate. Her vitals are normal and her blood shows no more poison or wolfsbane. Cassius smiled at her. Thank you, Angie. Gemma just needs rest. Angela looked at my gathered family before walking out of the room. My family took that as a cue. I guess we will be going to our room, my father declared. None of us has gotten much sleep. He leaned down and kissed my cheek. Your mother and I will take Nikki. My mother kissed my forehead and reached out her hands to my son. Nikki snuggled against my chest. I patted his arm. It's all right now, Nikki. Go with Grandma and Grandpa. I kissed the top of his head. Okay, Mommy. He said as he allowed my mother to pick him up. She and my father stepped back. Izzy and Terry stepped towards the bed. Gemma, you have no idea how happy we are that you are all right. My mother-in-law said. She and Terry looked like everyone else. Tired and worn out. I felt guilty that it seemed the world had stopped just for me. It was touch and go for a while there, kiddo, Terry said to me. But you made it through. He leaned down to kiss my forehead. He glanced at Cassius. We are going to go now, son. Get some rest, Dad. Mom. He replied to his parents and they walked out of the room. I am glad you are okay, Gemma. My sister said to me. I am going with Mom and Dad. Thank you, Tiff. I smiled at her. I am so sleeping for a week, my brother declared. I love you, Gemma, but this took a lot out of me. I smiled at my twin. I will be forever grateful to you and Leopold, Ian. He leaned forward and hugged me before walking out of the room with my parents and son. All at once, it was just Cassius and I left. I looked into my mate's blue eyes. They looked so tired and sad. He held my hand tight, interlocking our fingers, and leaned in to kiss me again. This time there wasn't anyone to interrupt us this time. His teeth lightly nibbled my bottom lip and I granted his tongue entrance. After a bit of tongue wrestling, he kissed down my cheek and my neck. I gasped as he reached my mark and grazed his teeth over it. Goddess, I missed you. I breathed out to him. You have no idea how happy I am to see you awake. He whispered against my neck. He rested his forehead against mine. Our eyes locked. Who took care of the kingdom while I was out? Deke and Maria. He said. I also did some work in here on a laptop. I sighed. There was the issue of Jeremy. I didn't want him dead. I hoped that Cassius hadn't executed him yet. And Jeremy. Cassius stiffened and pulled away from me. He said nothing as he looked away from me. Is he dead? Cassius said nothing to me. I had to know. Cassius? Tell me. Is Jeremy dead? He took a deep breath. No, I sighed with relief. He turned to face me again. Do you still love him, Gemma? He said with anger and pain. I narrowed my eyes at him. What? In your coma sometimes you called for him. I looked down at the blankets on the bed. I dreamt of our life together, I explained as Cassius growled. I meant the life we had. Growing up together and playing as pups. The birth of our son. I relived some of that. I may have been calling out to him through my memories. Cassius seemed to relax at that. But do you still love him? I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Yes. My mate stood up suddenly and punched the wall. Cassius, please. I pleaded with him. He turned to me. His eyes were flickering between black and blue. Cassius, I still love Jeremy. I will always love him. But he is not my soulmate. I reached for my mate's hand. I pulled him back towards me. He does not own my heart. He is not my future. I saw our pups, Cassius. All of them. All 6 of them. He smiled and sat back down beside me as I spoke. I looked deep into his eyes. Yes, I will always love Jeremy. But I was never in love with him. You own my soul, Cassius Fury. You are the one I love with everything I have. I finished my speech and his lips smashed against me. We kissed deeply before he pulled away. 6, you say? He smiled broadly. I rolled my eyes. Yes. He laughed, leaned his face against my belly. He stroked the soft skin as he kissed my belly. I sensed them. I noticed my belly had gotten rounder in my coma. I can't wait to meet them. I ran my hand through his hair and we stayed in the moment. He kissed and stroked my belly while talking to the pups. I wanted nothing to spoil this. He lifted his face to mine. Cassius, what is going to happen to Jeremy? I had to go and spoil the moment because his face fell. He is going to be executed. He stated firmly. I took a deep breath. I don't want him executed. Cassius growled and narrowed his eyes. Gemma, he tried to kill our pups. You have been in a coma for a week because of what he did. Not to mention he had been raping his mate, and you know I don't stand for that. He has to die for his crimes. I nodded. I know, but I don't want him to die. Please don't execute him. Find another way to punish him. For me. For Nikki. Cassius's POV. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. A week. I had spent a long week at her side because her wolf needed my wolf nearby to heal her body. My Beta and Delta had to take care of the kingdom while I sat in this hospital room so Enoch could be close to his mate. Not that it bothered me. I would do anything to help my mate and our growing pups. But right now my mate was asking me to not kill him, that was responsible for all of this. I know, but I don't want him to die. Please don't execute him. Find another way to punish him. For me. For Nikki. She said to me. Gemma, he almost killed our unborn pups. You have been in a coma for a week and you want me to spare his life. I growled at her. She didn't shrink back and just looked me in the eyes. Yes. I just can't think of my son being without a father. No matter the bad things he did. Jeremy still loves Nikki. My fists balled up as I stood up and faced away from her. Jeremy doesn't deserve that pup. I snarled and turned to her. Is that the kind of man you want as a father to your pup? Jeremy is Nikki's father. My pup needs a father. No pup needs a father like that. Jeremy is a slime ball, Gemma. I know you grew up with him and loved him at one time. But he is not the man you remember. He has gone down a dark path. You know he was raping his mate for the last few months. She cringed when I said that. Yeah, I had to break up a dispute between your pack and the pack where that girl came from. Her father is the beta to the Golden Moon pack and she returned there after that prick rejected her. She told her parents that Jeremy had been raping her. So the beta and alpha came here to confront your father and his beta. I had to stop them from going to war. Jeremy is a rapist, Gemma. You know I don't stand for that in this kingdom. Tears fell from her eyes and she sobbed. I sat on the chair beside her and grabbed her hand. Look, your son will not be without a father. As far as I am concerned, that pup is now my son. I will treat him that same as my biological pups. She sniffled. I appreciate that. And I know Jeremy has done some evil things that he should be executed for. I hate asking you to spare him when others would have met their end. But I don't want you to execute him. I let go of her hand and sighed heavily. Gemma, I can't be lenient on him. There are laws in this kingdom for a reason that have strict punishments. I know. She said quietly. I was just thinking about Nicky. What am I going to tell him? I gently stroked her cheek. Your son. I mean our son is a very intelligent pup. He is very aware of what is going on. He knows Jeremy is going to die for his crimes. I explained to her. I didn't have to tell him. He already figured it out. She sighed as more tears ran down her cheeks. I'm sorry. She mumbled. I leaned towards her and placed a soft kiss on her lips. You have nothing to be sorry for, love. You are a compassionate female. I can't be mad at that. You have to look past that man you knew and look at the man now. He has to die, Gemma. I am sorry. She began sobbing again and lay beside her on the bed and pulled her to my chest. I let her sob until she fell asleep. I placed her on the bed and pulled the blanket over her shoulder. Sighing, I stood up and stretched. I walked out of the room and stopped at the front desk. The nurses and doctor there all bowed. I am going to step out for a bit. The Queen is sleeping. If she awakens, tell her that I will be right back. And if anything happens I should know about, inform me immediately. The doctor, an older man with white hair, nodded. Of course, Your Majesty. I smiled before leaving the hospital. Outside I took a deep breath. I had spent most of the last 7 days in the hospital room beside Gemma, taking only a few short breaks. Her brother and I had taken shifts so our wolves could provide strength to her wolf. I sighed and looked towards the building that housed the dungeons. I walked towards the low-sitting building and put in my password to open the heavy iron door. I walked down the metal doors and stopped at the desk. A young male guard was sitting behind the desk reading a magazine. He stood up suddenly as I approached. Why, Your Majesty? He bowed. I raised an eyebrow at him. Reading instead of doing your duties. The poor male trembled as he looked at the ground. I was taking a break, sir. I smiled slightly. Relax. I am not going to chastise you. I am just here to speak with a prisoner. Hand me the keys. Which prisoner? My eyes narrowed at him. Don't worry about it and hand me the keys, I growled lowly in my king tone. The guard stiffened and then handed me the keys before he pressed a button on the desk to open the iron door that leads to the cells. Thank you, I said to him. My footsteps echoed as I marched down the hall of cells. Snarls and growls came within some of the cells. I glanced at the imprisoned rogues but said nothing. I stopped at one door and opened it up. The man chained to the wall appeared to be asleep. The heavy smell of urine and blood filled my nose as he looked up. His face was gaunt from the lack of food and the wolf's bane being pumped into his veins. He sneered at me. So, you finally came to kill me? His voice rasped out. No, I replied. He coughed and blood splattered on the floor. Then what do you want from me? Just wanted to let you know that Gemma is awake. It took 7 long days for her to come out of the coma you inflicted on her. And my pups lived thanks to her wolf, my wolf, and Ian's wolf. He snorted and looked away from me. Well, good for you. Your pup, or should I say my pup, is doing well too. His eyes narrowed at me. What do you mean by your pup? He is my son. A growl fell out of him. I bent down to look him in the eyes. You may have sired him. But from the day you nearly took his mother's life, he became my son. Nicholas is aware that your life is about to end and he has strangely come to terms with it. Jeremy pulled against the chains and growled at me. Gemma is supposed to be my mate. We were supposed to be a family. Whose fault is that, Jeremy? My father made me accept that stupid Esther. I never wanted her. I mean seriously, no other woman compares with Gemma. I laughed dryly. I would have to agree with you there. But no. He said accepting Esther was good for relations between our packs, so I gave up the woman I truly loved for her. I hate that. He spat. I got that when her father was here telling your father about you raping her. I snarled at him. He rolled his eyes. She was my mate. I had needs. Mate or not, rape is still rape, and that is not something that I stand for in this kingdom. The charges against you keep adding up, Mr. Warner. Between the attempted murder of Gemma and our pups and the rape of your former mate, you are looking at death. He looked at the ground again. But for some reason, Gemma does not think you should die. Jeremy looked up at me again. What? She wants me to show you mercy. He smiled slightly. She does still love me. She does still love you. He snorted. You seem calm about it. I lowered my face to his. That doesn't mean I am all right with it. But I understand it. You two have a long history. You share a son. She told me she will always love you. But she was never in love with you, Jeremy. That distinction belongs to me. He growled at me. She is just under the influence of the mate bond. If she wasn't, then she would be with me. I doubt it, I mumbled. So, what I want to know is where you got the poison you used on her. Nowhere. I squatted down to look him in the eyes. No one gets that kind of potion, nowhere. It's the kind of potion a witch would have. So tell me the name of the witch. Why? So it was a witch. He shrugged. Like I told that Dyke Delta of yours, I don't know her name. So, how did you meet this witch? At a bar. He mumbled. So, some random witch came up to you and handed you a vial and you just accepted it. He sighed. Look, I wanted to be with Gemma and was desperate to find a way. So she helped me. Something was not adding up in his story. So, the random witch knew you wanted to steal Gemma from me. He snarled. You stole her from me. I chuckled. Right. I rolled my eyes. The witch knows things. Can you describe her? I don't know. She looked like a standard witch. I grabbed his chin roughly. There is no such thing as a standard witch. Tell me what she looked like. I growled in my king tone. Black hair, thin and well beautiful. Was she working for my cousin Felix? I asked in my tone. Jeremy stiffened and I could see him trying to refuse my tone, but my tone was stronger than any alpha's was. Yes. Tell me more, I said to him, still using my tone. Lord Felix sent some rogues to kidnap me from the mall. He made me a deal to help him. I was to try and win Gemma away from you so it weakened you. Then Felix would be able to kill you. He said if I succeeded with Gemma then he would pay for us to live wherever we wanted with our son. He explained. Then the witch gave me the vial. I didn't know it would hurt Gemma like that. I would never have hurt her like that. I love her. He sniffled. So, you honestly think killing her pups would have made her fall into your arms? You know how protective of Nick she is. If you would have killed my pups she would have hated you. She would never have gone with you. I made the mistake of separating her from Nick and I nearly lost her. I stood up and faced away from him. She would have come around. I shook my head. For someone who loves Gemma, you don't know her. Anyways, your sentencing will be tomorrow. He scoffed. Why not just kill me now? I know you thirst for my blood. Because I do things right. I turned to him one more time. See you tomorrow, I said before walking out of the cell. I walked through the iron door and Beta Mark was talking to the guard at the desk. They looked up at me. King Cassius, I came to ask if I can speak with my son one more time. The Beta asked me. The poor man looked tired like I was. In the 7 days Gemma had been in the coma I hadn't allowed anyone but Maria and the guards to see or speak to Jeremy. Permission granted, Beta. His sentencing is tomorrow. I said to him. Beta Mark hung his head. He is being executed, isn't he? Yes. His crimes are very serious, Beta. I can't show him mercy. He sighed heavily. I understand. I don't know where I went wrong with him for him to go down this path. I never taught him that raping females was okay. Or using poison on a she-wolf that would cause her to abort her pups. His eyes were tearing up. I thought I taught him morals and values. But I failed him. I felt empathy towards the man. He was about to lose his only child and he thought it was his fault. Jeremy made his own decisions. He did this on his own. Maybe if I hadn't forced him to accept his mate, the Beta said before trailing off. I'm sorry, Your Majesty. It's all right, Beta. I have to go back to the hospital. Phil told me Gemma will be all right. I'm glad. She will. And don't worry about your grandson. He will be well cared for. You and your mate will be permitted to see him anytime you want. The Beta managed as a slight smile. Thank you, Your Majesty. I patted his shoulder and looked at the guard. Escort Beta Warner into the cells to see his son, please. The guard nodded, yes sir. He replied as I walked out of the building and headed back to the hospital. I walked into Gemma's room and she was still sleeping. It was rather late, so I took off my shoes and shirt and crawled onto the bed and pulled her to me. I fell asleep with her in my arms. The next morning I awoke in the bed alone. Gemma. I called for her and then heard the toilet in the small bathroom flushing. I sat up as she walked out. Are you okay? My body just remembered I was pregnant and gifted me with morning sickness. She walked towards me on unsteady feet. I stood up and scooped her up into my arms and lay on the bed with her on my chest. You are still quite weak. She snuggled against me. Well, I was out for a week. I know. I closed my eyes as we took the moment together to just be in the other's presence. There was a knock on the door as Angela strolled in. Good morning you two. She smiled at us. I am here to release, Gemma. She pulled up a stool and sat beside the bed. She will still be a bit weak and will have to take it easy. Give her a few more days to recover before putting her back to work. Gemma scoffed. I am tired of being in bed. You don't have to recover in bed. Just no strenuous activity like training. I groaned. Oh come on Angie. Geez, Cass. Give her a week. All right. Angela rolled her eyes at me. The doctor was lucky that she was my friend. Very few people would get away with speaking to me that way she did. Fine, I glanced at Gemma as she giggled. You have no idea how happy it makes me to hear you giggling, my love. I pecked her forehead with a light kiss. Gemma blushed slightly at me. Okay well, whenever you two are ready I'll be at the front desk with the paperwork. Angela stood up and left the room. I had your mother bring some clothes last night, I said to Gemma as I picked up a bag sitting on a counter and set it on the bed. You want to take a shower too? She nodded. Yes. Just give me a few minutes. She while standing and stiffly walking to the bathroom. I tried picking her up. No, Cass. I need to get used to walking again. I sighed and let her walk. I'll be right here, I called to her. I sat on the bed when someone knocked on the door. Come in, I replied as my Beta and Delta walked in. I have decided that Jeremy Warner will be sentenced today around 10, I told them. Execution? Maria asked. Yes. He will be brought before me in the throne room so everyone can hear what happens when you try killing the queen, I explained to them. And who will carry out the sentence? I shrugged. I will of course. With help from Gemma's father. I told them, is there anything else that needs my attention? Deke nodded. A few things. But we can go over them later when you are done here. Nothing too pressing. Good, I said as the shower switched off. Gemma is being released and after I take her up to our room. I'll come down to the office so we can go over everything. I stood up and ushered Deke and Maria out of the room. So, see you two later. They both nodded and left and I closed the door. I turned back to see my mate walk out of the bathroom. She had a towel wrapped around her hair. I looked her over. She had lost a bit of weight over the last week. I smiled at the slight rounding of her belly as she rummaged through the bag on the bed. She turned to me and smirked. Are you checking me out? Every day, darling. I smiled at her. She laughed as she got dressed. She put on a pair of grey pants and a purple shirt. She pulled on a pair of sandals and looked up at me. Okay, I am ready. Good. I stood up and held out my hand to her. She clasped it and we walked out of the room. Her mother was waiting by the front desk with her son. Mommy! Nick happily exclaimed and ran over to Gemma. She leaned down to him. Hi, baby. Were you good for Grandma and Grandpa? I walked over to the desk and signed the paperwork while Gemma talked to her mother and son. All set, Cass, Angela smirked at me. Remember no hanky-panky for a week. She said loud enough for everyone to hear. Thanks, Angie, I growled at her. Anytime, Cass. Gemma giggled again as she stood behind me with her mother beside her. I love it how you get under his skin, Angie. She said to the doctor. Angela leaned towards her. It's not hard, Gemma. She smirked at me. I sighed and looked at my mate. Let's go. I grabbed her hand and walked out of the hospital. Her mother walked beside us while Nick ran ahead of us. So, I am taking you up to our room and you will hang out there for a couple of days. She huffed. Ugh. Gemma, I know you don't like that but Angela said you need to take it easy. You aren't going to be locked in our room. You can walk around the palace and your family is permitted to visit. She sighed. Okay, I think I can handle that. Can I do some exercise too? If you stay in our room, yes. And like I said, keep it simple. Okay. She looked at her mother. We walked into the palace and stood in front of the elevator. Are you hungry, Gemma? She nodded. Very. I'll have the kitchen send you some food. Are you going to stay with her, Melinda? I asked Gemma's mother. If that is all right with Gemma. Gemma snorted. Of course it is. She replied to her mother. Then I'll have food sent up for all of you. I smiled as the doors opened. I started to step on behind the ladies when Alpha Philip ran towards us. I held the elevator for him. He stepped in and hugged Gemma. Oh, my daughter. It's good to see you doing better. Hi, Daddy. She smiled at him. Where are Ian and Tiffany? Ian is out training with the warriors and Tiffany went home. She frowned. I was hoping to see Tiffany one more time. He patted her arm as the doors opened and we all filed out. We headed towards mine and Gemma's room. I needed to speak with you, Cassius, Phil said to me. And I needed to speak to you, Philosophy. My mother rushed towards me as we all filed into my room. Cassie, she poked her head in. Ah, Gemma. I see you are out of the hospital. Gemma nodded as she sat on the couch with her mother and son. Yeah, I just got out. Mom and I were going to hang out here and just watch TV and play with Nikki. How about I send for my manicurist and we can have mani/pedis? My mother suggested to her. Gemma raised her eyebrows. Yes please. She turned to me. Will that be all right? I laughed. Yes, love. That is more than all right. I leaned down and kissed her cheek. I have to speak with your father and then go to work. I looked down. I was merely wearing a pair of sweats and a t-shirt. I would change later for the sentencing, but for now, I was going like this. Phil, I beckoned my father-in-law out of the room while the ladies were talking. I closed the door as we stepped out of the room. Jeremy will be sentenced today around 10. That's what I wanted to know. My beta told me that's what you plan to do. He is beside himself. He knows his son is to be executed. I need your help with that philosophy. The alpha looked me up and down. I know you want Jeremy's blood as much as I do. He nearly killed your daughter, I said as Phil growled viciously. I want nothing more than to rip him limb from limb. Exactly. So, will you help me? He nodded. Count me in, Cassius. No one hurts my baby girl and gets away with it. I patted his arm. Be at my office around 9:45. Okay. And what about Nick? I folded my arms. What about him? He keeps talking about his father dying and it pains me. My son will be all right, Philip. He is resilient like his mother. Phil raised an eyebrow at me. Your son? Yes, as far as I am concerned that pup is now my son. Thank you, Cassius. He smiled at me. I am going to go in and talk to my mate and daughter. Feel free, I said to him. I have to go to work. I walked away back towards the elevators. I spent a couple of hours in the office with Deke and Maria catching up on everything. When it was a bit after 9 they left to go set up the throne room for the sentencing. I leaned back in my chair as the door opened. It was Gemma. Gemma? What are you doing down here? She stood in front of the desk and looked me in the eyes. I still don't want you to execute Jeremy, she said as I growled. She held up a hand. My father told me that you and he intend to carry out the execution. But please, don't kill him. I stood up and walked around the desk. Gemma, I am not changing my mind on this. She stepped away from me. Please, Cassius. Banish him instead. Make him a rogue. But please don't execute him, she said as tears fell down her cheeks. I just can't bear the thought of him being dead. I know you are stepping up to be a father to Nikki. But she trailed off. Please, Cass. Gemma, I can't be lenient because of your history with Jeremy. It will make me look weak. It will make it look one-sided in my decisions. I can't have my subjects thinking I am not a just and fair king. She sighed. Fine. I want to be there at the sentencing. I nodded. Okay. I pulled her into my arms. I'm sorry, Gemma. I know. She replied sadly and pulled away from me and walked out of the office. I followed her. What are you doing? I have to go shower and change my clothes. Can't show up like this. She smirked. Yeah, you sort of look like a hobo. I laughed. You will pay for that comment, Missy. Remember what Angela said. No hanky-panky. I leaned down to her and lifted her chin with a finger. I have other ways of making you pay, Gemma. I purred to her as I kissed her lips. After showering and changing into a black suit I went back to my office with Gemma at my side. Gemma was wearing a matching black pantsuit. I had been thinking about what she had said to me. I didn't want to change my mind about executing Jeremy. But I hated upsetting my mate. Philip was standing outside of my office as we approached. Gemma? You should be resting. She rolled her eyes at her father. I have done enough resting, Dad. Don't worry, Phil. I will make sure she sits during the sentencing. He sighed. Okay. But she will not be witnessing the execution. Are you giving me orders, Alpha? I raised an eyebrow at him. Nope. He smirked. I just don't want my daughter to see that. Gemma snorted. Dad, I have seen worse. I have ripped the throats out of rogues. But I won't be watching you and Cassius rip Jeremy apart. Phil and I both breathed a sigh of relief as we all walked into the office. Maria is the prisoner prepared for the sentencing. I linked my delta. Yes. She replied. Deke walked into the office dressed in a nice suit. So, are we ready to get this show on the road? I growled at him. This isn't a show, Deke. Just trying to lighten the mood, Cass. I ignored him. Bring the prisoner to the throne room, Maria. I ordered my delta. Why don't you go assist Maria with Mr. Warner? I said to Deke. Like she doesn't have half a dozen men on him. I lifted an eyebrow. Deke. He snorted and walked out of the office. I turned to Gemma and Phil. Let's go. Mom is watching Nikki. She didn't want to watch the sentencing. Gemma told her father. Phil shrugged. Your mother was never a fan of this kind of thing. He said to her. We walked together towards the throne room. Do we have to wear our crowns? Gemma asked while laughing. No, I replied seriously. As we approached, Philip acknowledged his beta and the beta's mate. I looked at the female on beta Mark's arm. Her son looked a lot like her. She had the same blonde hair and blue eyes. I sighed as the poor woman was sobbing on her mate's arm. Gemma walked over to her and hugged her. I am so sorry about this, Liz. The other she-wolf sniffled. I am a failure as a mother. No, Liz. You are a great mother. She said as the woman sobbed. You don't have to be down here for this. You can go up to my and Cassius's room. My mom is up there with Nikki. Liz shook her head. No, I need to be here. Jeremy is my son and I need to see this through. Gemma, I said to my mate. I grabbed her hand. Come on, Gemma. I looked at the beta couple of Zephyr Moon. You may see your grandson later, I told them. They both nodded as I pulled Gemma away. There was a growing crowd in the throne room. Gemma and I walked down the middle as everyone bowed. We took our places on our thrones. Gemma just stared straight ahead. Philip walked down the middle and stood at the foot of the platform while my parents entered and stood beside Philip. Jeremy's parents entered and stood near Phil. They exchanged tense looks with Phil. Cass, we are outside with the prisoner. Maria informed me. Bring him in, Maria. I replied to her as I stood up and held up my hands. We are gathered here for the sentencing of one Jeremy Warner, I announced to the crowd of alphas, elders, and others of rank. I saw the alpha and beta of Golden Moon Pack among the crowd too. Bring in the accused, I ordered as the doors opened and Maria walked in with 4 guards behind her. 2 held Jeremy whose legs and hands were shackled. He looked at the ground as they approached. As they stopped before us he looked up at Gemma. I glanced at her and she held a stone-faced expression. Jeremy Warner, you stand before me accused of some very serious crimes. I looked down at him. You stand accused of the attempted murder of my mate and Queen Gemma Fury, the attempted murder of our unborn heirs, and the repeated assault of your former mate Esther Taylor. All capital offences in this kingdom. All carrying the ultimate sentence of death. Do you have anything to say for yourself before I lay down the sentence? He looked at Gemma. Gemma, he started as there were gasps from the crowd for addressing the Queen so informal. I am so sorry. I never intended to hurt you. I just want you to be with me. Your rightful mate. He said to her. Gemma looked him in the eyes but maintained the same expression. Though I could see tears forming in her eyes. I love you, Gemma Mackenzie. Gemma stood up beside me. You lost the privilege to call me by such an informal name when you tried to kill me, Jeremy. I am the Queen of Lycanese and expect to be addressed as such. Gemma, I mean Queen Gemma. I never tried to kill you. I just wanted the pups gone. We both growled at him. Gemma tried stepping towards him but I stopped her. And you thought I would have happily fell into your arms after you killed my children? She snarled. You are an star. Gemma, I mumbled to her. She looked at me. Sorry, get on with the sentencing. She took her stance beside me. I took a deep breath. Jeremy Warner, you are accused of attempted murder and rape. I will now sentence you. Jeremy rolled his eyes. Just get on with it. I know you want to kill me. So just do it. I, King Cassius Fury, sentence you Jeremy Warner to exile, I said as the room erupted into shouts and murmurs. Silence! I bellowed in my king's tone. Everyone instantly quieted. That is my sentence. You, Jeremy, will be exiled from any territory within the kingdom of Lycanese. You from this day forth will be a rogue. If you so much as step foot on any territory you will be killed. The beta from Golden Moon ran out from the crowd. This man should be executed. He yelled at me. He tortured and raped my daughter. I glared at the beta. My word is final. I yelled. Mr. Warner, thank the goddess I am feeling merciful towards you. Now take him away. I said to my guards. I sat on the throne as the beta of Golden Moon kept fighting my guards. Beta. If you continue to fight my guards you will be taken to the dungeon. I stood up again. I am the king. My word is final. There will be no discussion. I yelled in my tone as everyone bowed before me. That's better. Everyone is dismissed. This sentencing is over. I said and grabbed Gemma's hand. Come on, love. We walked down the steps and Beta Mark approached me with his mate. King Cassius, may we say goodbye to our son? I nodded. You have 5 minutes. Phil walked over to Gemma and me as we filed out of the throne room. There were still angry murmurs but I didn't care. I made my decision. Maria, I shouted to my Delta. She had been helping the guards with Jeremy. Let Jeremy's parents say their goodbye, then take him immediately to no man's land and drop him off. She nodded. Yes, Cass. I walked into my office with Phil and Gemma. I plopped down on the couch and sighed. Gemma hugged me and kissed my neck. Thank you, she whispered to me. Phil just looked down at me. Are you angry with me? I don't know what I am. But I suppose you had your reasons. I looked at Gemma. I did philosophy. My father stormed into the office a moment later. You did it this time, Cassius. Everyone is pissed. I don't care, Dad. I am the king. I made my decision. He stood beside Phil. I know, son. That man nearly killed your mate and the future of the kingdom, and you showed him mercy. Terry, I asked him to not execute Jeremy, Gemma interjected. My father glared at her with a growl which elicited a growl from Phil. The two of them glared at each other. Gemma, I know you share a past with that bastard, but that doesn't mean he should be allowed to live. He's a rogue now, Terry. He is as good as dead. Gemma said to my dad. Look, I just couldn't bear the thought of my son's father being dead. I just couldn't. She started sobbing against my chest. My father took a deep breath. Gemma, this is the hard part of being royal. You have to put your personal feelings aside and do what's best for the kingdom. Jeremy conspired with Felix, and sparing him will allow it to happen again. Or Felix will kill him for failing in his mission, Gemma retorted. Either way, I think him being exiled is far worse than execution. He will have to think every day about what he did. He may die tomorrow or a month from now. But he is a rogue. He can't enter anyone's territory. Gemma spoke confidently. He will suffer more like a rogue. My father sighed. I suppose there is wisdom in that. I just hope it doesn't backfire. I pray he doesn't conspire with Felix again. I sent him to no man's land, Dad. Not even Felix is low enough to go there. My father snorted. Felix is good at sinking low, Cassius. I just hope you are right, he said before walking out of the office. I wrapped my arm around Gemma. She looked tired already. Love, you are going back up to our room and resting. I'm not sleepy. I can sense your fatigue. You don't have to sleep, but I need you to go there and rest. Whether you just veg on the couch with our pup and our mothers or sleep, I don't care. Just rest. I'll be down here doing boring office stuff. She took a deep breath. Okay, Cass. She then yawned. I picked her up bridal style. I can walk, Cassius. I don't care. I kissed her lips. I am taking you up to our room. She stopped struggling as I carried her to the office and towards our room. Gemma's POV: the sun shined through the curtains as I opened my eyes. I was lying on my side in Cassius's arms. I snuggled against his chest, making him purr in his sleep. It's been a month since my coma and I had been cleared to have sex again. It was like Cassius couldn't get enough of my body. Not that I minded. Sex with one's true love was like nothing else. My morning sickness had mostly gone away in the last week. But right now I had to urinate. Cassius had his arm tightly around me. I smacked his arm to try and escape. Cass, I said to him, only to be answered by a snore. Cassius! I tried lifting his arm only to be held tighter. Cassius! I shouted at him. He groaned and loosened his hold a little and I was able to get out of bed. I ran into the bathroom to relieve myself and then to start getting ready for the day. I was going to spend part of the morning doing my exercises. I no longer participated in sparring with other wolves. I mostly just beat up dummies or punching bags. I still needed to move around and run as much as I could. It helped lessen the pain my body experienced from growing twins. After training, I would be in the office with Cassius. I was a little excited because Ainsley was coming to visit and along with Izzy we were going to go to the spa and then the mall. I was excited because it was only the second time I had been out of the palace since the sentencing. The rogue activity had dropped back to normal levels and Cassius reluctantly agreed to allow me to go with his sister and mother. I was going a little stir-crazy not being allowed to leave the palace. I took off my nightgown and stepped into the shower. I rubbed my hands over my growing belly. It was rounder and more pronounced. Still, most people couldn't see it when I was fully dressed. I still could feel any kicks yet. I jumped when the shower door opened and Cassius engulfed me in his arms. He rested his head on top of mine. "Good morning, Cass. My love, how are you this morning?" he said as he placed his hands on my belly. "The twins are up too," he said. It seemed he could fully sense their little souls. "We are doing well this morning, my king." I leaned into his chest as I ran my hand up and down his arm. He spun me around and we kissed as the water cascaded over our bodies. "Are you looking to have a long shower with me this morning?" I gleamed as he growled lowly and lifted me into his arms. He pressed me against the wall as our kissing became more hungered. My arms wrapped around his neck as our tongues danced together. The heat from our passion was making me pant. He finally pulled back slightly, allowing me a quick breath before pressing his lips against mine again. Someone is hard already." I purred lowly as he kissed down my neck and then licked my mark. I moaned out as he let me down. He leaned against me for a moment while we both panted. He pulled out of me and we washed each other before finally leaving the now cold shower. I dried off and then went into the closet. I chose to wear dark blue jeans and a light blue button-up shirt. I put on some black leather boots and then pulled my long hair into a tight ponytail. Cassius wore some black slacks and a red button-up shirt. We were both going for a casual look today. I then went to Nikki's room to get him ready. After bathing and clothing my son, we joined Cassius at the elevators with his parents. Cassius picked up Nikki. "Good morning, Nick." "Morning, Daddy." My son had started calling Cassius that a few weeks ago. It made me slightly uncomfortable for some reason, even though Nikki was happy with it. Cassius didn't force him to. Nikki just did it on his own. He had come to terms that Jeremy was gone. The elevator door opened and we filed in. "So, are you excited about the spa, dear?" Izzy asked me. "Yes," I replied to her. "I'm excited to see Ainsley," I told her. Ainsley hadn't called much since she became Luna of her mate's pack. We figured she was just busy. Though Izzy was suspicious because she said her daughter just sounded different. The doors opened and Cassius set Nikki down and my pup ran ahead of us. We entered the dining room and everyone rose as usual. "Good morning, everyone," Cassius announced. I hope everyone had a good evening. Let's have a good day. He clapped his hands and then we all sat down. The Omegas brought out breakfast as usual. It was a nice hearty steak and eggs breakfast. My mouth watered at the medium rare chunk of ribeye. Even Nicky looked eager to eat the steak. I cut up his steak for him and then dug into mine. I don't know why but I have been craving steak a lot lately, I said out loud. Well, you are carrying Cassie's offspring, Izzy snickered. I wanted almost nothing but meat when I was pregnant with him. I laughed. Makes sense. I'm sure at least one of these pups is a male and well if he is anything like his daddy, he loves his meat. I smirked at Cassius and he grinned. You love my meat too, love. He winked at me. Cassius Alexander. Izzy barked at him. Sorry, mother, Cassius muttered. I couldn't help but laugh at the king still getting chastised by his mother. Everyone knew that Izzy was the one truly at the helm of the kingdom. Oh, good boy Nicky, I said to my son who had wolfed down most of his breakfast. You were a hungry pup. I like steak, mommy. I laughed. Of course you do. Most wolves like their steak. Are you ready for pup care? He nodded. Yes. Let me finish my breakfast and we'll head on over, okay? I smiled at my pup. I watched as he hopped off his chair and ran around me and to Cassius. My mate scooped him up and placed Nicky on his lap. The two of them had become closer in the month since Jeremy's exile. Cassius cut a piece of his steak and fed it to Nicky. Thanks, Daddy. Nicky cooed as Cassius shared his breakfast with him. Haven't you had enough food, Nicky? I said to my son. He's a growing boy, Gemma. Cassius smirked at me and fed Nicky another piece of steak. I rolled my eyes. Well, do you mind taking him to pup care so I can get to training? I don't mind, love, Cassius replied as I leaned down to kiss him. I looked at Nicky. You be good for your dad and the ladies at pup care. I'll see you later. I kissed my son's cheek and waved at everyone else in the room before heading out to training. It was nearly noon and I had been sitting beside Cassius as we worked through all of the emails and video chats. Things had quieted in the last few weeks since his decision to exile rather than execute Jeremy. After the verdict, there had been controversy. The father of Jeremy's ex-mate even tried challenging Cassius. Of course, he didn't win. A mere beta against the king of werewolves was laughable. The elders tried to use their collective power to get the verdict overturned but that didn't work either. It was nearly lunchtime and I was ravished with hunger. Even after a large breakfast and snacks I still felt starved. The twins were growing fast which took a lot out of me to stay nourished. I looked at Cassius. Are you ready for lunch yet? He had just finished a video call and turned to me. Just about, he replied as my stomach rumbled. You can go on ahead of me if you wish, my love. I stood up and kissed him on the lips. Thank you, babe. He held me for a moment and stroked my cheek. Do you want me to put in your order for you so it will be ready for you? He grinned. I just want a big tuna sandwich with some chips and a soda. Okay, I smiled and kissed him once more before departing the office. I stopped in the ladies' room to relieve myself. I was still a little weary of the bathroom since the attack. As I walked towards the dining room, I saw Ainsley with her mate and parents visiting. I rushed towards them. "Ans!" I called out to my sister-in-law. She turned to me and she did seem different to me. She merely smiled at me. "Hello, Gemma," she responded softly. I hugged her and she winced slightly. "Oh, I'm sorry. It's all right. I fell earlier. Still, a bit bruised," she said quietly. I glanced at Izzy, who had a raised eyebrow. But neither of us said anything as we all walked into the dining room. Terry was chatting with Casper. I sat in my seat and an Omega came forward to take my lunch order. "The king would like to have a large tuna sandwich with chips and soda," I told him. He nodded and jotted down the order. As for me, I think I would like a grilled chicken sandwich with bacon and Swiss cheese on top, with a few pickle slices on the side and some fries. "Of course, Your Majesty." The Omega grinned before walking towards the kitchen. I looked over at Ainsley. "So, how are things, Ainsley?" She looked at her mate, who had a hard look on his handsome face. I shuddered because it reminded me of his father. "I am fine, Gemma," she replied quietly. A few minutes of silence passed before Cassius joined us. He smiled at his sister. "Hey, Ans. How is my baby sister doing?" He grinned happily at her. She shrugged. "I'm fine, Cass." Her voice was soft. He looked at Casper. "So, how is it going, Alpha?" "Well, the rogue problem seemed to have quieted," he replied. "I am slowly rebuilding my pack from the ashes after my father almost ran it into the ground." "I hadn't heard that. I thought the pack was doing okay despite your father's abuse of his mate," Cassius said as our lunch was being served. He eyed my big sandwich and pile of fries. I dug into my food while Cassius and Casper continued to talk. I noticed that Ainsley only had a small salad with very little on top of it. "Are you not hungry, Ans?" She shook her head. "I need to watch my figure," she replied quietly. I narrowed my eyes at her. "What is wrong with your figure? You look great." Casper clasped her hand and looked at me with the same look his father had looked at me. It was raising my suspicions of him. But I kept my mouth shut. Ainsley doesn't need to pork down a ton of food, like some people. "What is that supposed to mean?" I asked him. He shrugged. "It's just you are getting a bit thick in the middle." I growled at him. "I'm pregnant with twins, you moron." Cassius grabbed my hand. "I think Gemma looks just fine, Alpha. The twins are growing rapidly and it takes a lot out of her. She has to eat a lot to keep up with their growth," he explained as he held onto my hand. It calmed me slightly as I looked at the Alpha. "That is making me think of his father," Izzy said in my head. I glanced at her. "Oh, you are getting those vibes too, are you, Iz? So, you tell my daughter how much she is allowed to eat?" Izzy asked the Alpha. He shook his head. "No, I merely suggest she eats healthy and doesn't eat a ton." Izzy rolled her eyes and glanced at Terry. They appeared to be locked in a silent conversation before she looked at Ainsley. "Are you ready for the spa, dear?" Ainsley nodded. "Yes, Mother." She managed a slight smile. Well, let's go then. Are you ready, Gemma? She asked me. I nodded as I drank the last of my lemonade. More than ready, Izzy. I glanced at Cassius. I was going stir-crazy being holed up here in the palace for so long. He sighed. I was doing it for your safety, love. I stood up and placed a soft kiss on his lips. I know. I smiled at him as I looked into his eyes. We will be okay, Cass. See you later. Have fun. He said to me. I then followed Izzy and Ainsley out of the dining room. We walked out the front door to be greeted by Bruce leaning against the royal limo. Good afternoon, ladies. He smiled. My personal guard Sam and his men were waiting eagerly also. I nodded to them as Bruce opened the door of the limo for us all to file it. I entered last. We are going to the spa first. The driver nodded. Very well, Your Majesty. I got into the limo and Izzy was trying to get Ainsley to talk more. Please tell me he isn't beating you. Ainsley stiffened. No, mother. Then why are there bruises on your arms? Izzy nearly growled. Ainsley shrugged. I'm clumsy and run into things all of the time. Izzy folded her arms. I don't remember you being that clumsy. And the food thing? Mother, he is just looking out for me. He doesn't want me to get overweight. She glanced at me. Why are you looking at me like that? You did eat a lot for lunch, Gemma. I looked at Izzy for a second. What part of I'm growing twin royal alphas did you not catch? These pups are growing faster than normal pups and I need to eat more to keep up. I haven't gained that much weight. If anything, the doctors said I should gain more. I explained to her. Sorry, Gemma. I didn't mean to imply anything. I sighed. What is this sudden obsession with weight? You were not like that before. Casper just likes his mate to look a certain way. Izzy and I exchanged a look. What way is that? I asked her. He likes his mate to be on the thinner side and he likes me to dress a certain way. I did notice she was dressed in a long-sleeve shirt with a pair of jeans. It was warm out. She didn't need long sleeves. I sighed as the limo pulled up to the spa. We filed out and the guards spread out as we walked in. The workers at the spa were accustomed to them. We walked in and were immediately attended to. 20 minutes later I lay face down on a table being massaged. I relaxed as the masseuse worked my tense muscles. Manny, you are a magician with those hands, I said to him. You are very tense, Your Majesty. Running a kingdom will do that to someone, I chuckled. After we were all done getting facials and massages, we departed to the mall. Ainsley was still mostly silent. Izzy and I chatted about baby items. Ans, are you and Casper trying for a pup? Izzy asked her daughter. We are waiting a few years before we worry about pups, mother. Casper is working hard to rebuild the pack and it takes a lot out of him. We are both young so we aren't in a hurry. That's reasonable. I snorted. I sort of wish, Cassius, and I could have waited. I sighed. Not that I am not excited about these two. I just wish we could have waited. Izzy patted my arm. I wish that law didn't exist either. You are both young and you could have waited. Can't Cassius change it? The elders wouldn't allow that. I sighed. But Cassius overrode the elders over with Jeremy. I mean, it's too late for us, but I hate to think of my son being under that kind of pressure. Maybe you can persuade them to change it, dear. Izzy smiled at me. I mean, by the time your son is of age, most of the ones currently on the council will be dead and gone. I returned a smile to my mother-in-law. You make a very good point, Izzy. If anyone could change the minds of a bunch of doddering old wolves, it's you. Thank you, Izzy. The limo stopped in front of the mall. Bruce opened the door for us and we filed out. We waited for the guards to take their positions around us before we walked inside. It feels so good to get out of the palace, I said as I stretched my arms. So where to first, ladies? Izzy asked us. Ainsley and I shrugged. I don't know. I just sort of want to wander. I laughed. I would like to go to Grace's boutique. Ainsley smiled. After 2 hours of shopping and buying, we stopped in the food court. I was craving a giant pretzel while Izzy was trying to get Ainsley to eat something. I can hear your stomach growling, Izzy said to her daughter. I'll just drink some water, Mom. She responded to her mother. Izzy rolled her eyes as we sat in the food court. The guards surrounded us and patrons walked by eyeing us. I had grown accustomed to the constant stares. I chomped into the giant pretzel, savoring it. I saw Ainsley eyeing it. Come on, Ans. Eat something. We promise that we won't say anything to Casper, I said to her. She sighed. I'll get a smoothie. See, that's better, I said while dipping my giant pretzel in cheese sauce. I watched as she got up and walked over to the smoothie kiosk. Izzy sighed loudly as she watched her daughter. I am worried about her, Gemma, she said to me quietly. Me too, Izzy. I had Terry talk to Casper, but I doubt that will give anything up. She sneered. Perhaps we can get Cassius to talk to him and use his king tone. Izzy snickered. I'd hate to do that. I mean, it could be nothing, but your mother's instinct is in overdrive, isn't it? Yes, my pups may be grown, but I still worry about them, and my intuition, when they are in trouble, is still strong. My wolf is bothered by it too, Izzy explained to me. Ainsley returned with a child-size smoothie and sat down. She sipped on it quietly while I glanced at Izzy. I finished my pretzel and we all decided it was time to head back to the palace. We returned to the palace and filed out of the limo. Casper was standing by the door with folded arms. He glared at Ainsley as we walked towards the door. You are late, he snarled at her while roughly grabbing her arm. Izzy growled and stepped forward. It was my fault. I wanted to look at baby stuff for my grandchildren and it took longer than we thought. We were supposed to be back at the pack by now. Casper glared at Izzy. We have an important matter to attend to. He kept a grip on Ainsley's arm. I am sorry, Casper, Ainsley said quietly to him. Let's go, he growled at her and pulled her away from us. Can I at least say goodbye to my daughter? Izzy walked towards them, not waiting for Casper to respond. The alpha rolled his eyes. Hurry up. Izzy raised her eyebrows at him. You did not just give me an order, did you? He shrugged. You are just a female. I am a queen, you imp. she snarled before turning her attention to Ainsley. She looked her daughter in the eyes like they were locked in a conversation in the mind. Then she hugged her. Okay, that's enough. Casper tried grabbing Ainsley. Izzy held onto her. Grab my daughter one more time before I am done and you will be laid out on the ground, young alpha. Your mate needs to get down here and get you under control, Isabel. I am a male. She snorted. A piss poor one at that. Just like your pitiful father. Casper growled and raised his arm and I rushed forward and pushed him away from Izzy. If you lay a hand on the king's mother you will regret it. I snarled at him. His eyes flickered between black and blue. I just need to collect my Luna and go home now. Okay. Mother, it's okay. I just want to go home now. Ainsley pulled away from Izzy. Are you sure? Izzy asked her. Ainsley nodded. Yes. I will see you soon. Tell Dad I said bye. She hugged Izzy once before hugging me. Then Casper grabbed her arm and pulled her away from us. I so want to rip him apart, Izzy said as we watched them walk away. Can't we arrest him as we did with his father? I asked my mother-in-law. We'll see what Terry has to say about whatever Casper said. And we'll keep an eye on the matter. Izzy explained. Still I should have suspected something when I was there setting up her Luna ceremony. We walked into the palace and went into the sitting room. We sat on the posh couch. What happened? They seemed all right during the ceremony. He just seemed very controlling. I chalked it up to him being thrust into the alpha role so suddenly. Izzy sighed. She probably would have been better off with that vampire. I patted her arm. She will be all right, Iz. Ainsley is strong. I stood up. I am going to go find Cass. Okay, dear. See you later. Cass, where are you? I mind-linked my mate eager to see him. I am playing with Nick in his room. He replied and my heart swelled. I'll be right up. I replied and made my way towards the elevators. As I entered my son's room I smiled when I saw the king of werewolves on the floor with a toy car making car noise while he and Nikki rolled them around on the floor. I watched them for a moment before they both looked up. I finished work early and decided to get Nick from pup care and spend time with him. Daddy got me ice cream. Nikki declared as I walked over and sat on the floor with them. He did. I smiled at my mate. And then we played in the park. It sounds like you two had a fun day, Nikki. I picked up a car and rolled it around. Can I play with you guys too? Yep, Nikki responded. I proceeded to play cars with my mate and son for an hour before we had dinner brought up to the room. We then watched cartoons until Nikki fell asleep on Cassius's chest. We tucked our tired pup into bed before retiring to our room. I wrapped my arms around Cassius. I love you so much, my king. I looked up at him. I love you too, my queen. He kissed my lips and I wrapped my arms around his neck. The kiss deepened and he pushed me towards the bed as we discarded our clothes. I missed you all day. I crawled onto the bed and pulled him on top of me. I missed you too. My need for him grew. I thanked the goddess for the mate I was blessed with. He may have made a huge mistake at the beginning of our relationship, but he had spent every day since making up for it, and I couldn't love him more. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.